It is so nice to have you join me today. I want to talk to you about who we are and why it matters. Hey y'all, welcome to This Moment. I'm Jamie. So glad to have you join me. I want to talk to you today about Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael. So you probably know them, and I talked a little bit about this last week, but I really want to go a little bit more in depth because it's one of my favorite stories in the Bible. And it hasn't always been that way. It wasn't until I got to college. My whole life in the church growing up, I had heard about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and the fiery furnace, and the extra man that was there when they looked in. And I got to college, and my campus minister was talking about Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael. And I was really confused. I didn't know who they were. But the story he was talking about sounded a lot like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So as he went through the story and as he went through the telling, he explained that he used the names Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael because those were their names. The names that we know, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, were the names that were given to them by the officials under King Nebuchadnezzar in Babylonia. And they were given these new names, one to help them acclimate to the culture, okay, and another because I'm guessing the king probably knew names mean something. So he was trying to get them to identify as Babylonian and not as men from the tribe of Judah. Excuse me. So he was trying to help them move past the life that they had into this new life as a Babylonian. So they get new names, and these names mean something. In the Bible, names have such purpose. And I think it's really interesting because nowadays people either just name their children something they think is really cool, or they do what was done kind of in the Bible and they look for a meaning in the name, something that they want to bless that child with, something that they want to see their children aspire to. So these names meant something. The names that they had meant something, and the names that they're given mean something. And I want to make sure that I get them right. So Daniel actually means God is my judge. And his name is changed to Belteshazzar, which means Bel, protect his life. So this was to one of the Babylonian gods. So his name went from honoring God, Yahweh God that we know, to honoring one of the Babylonian gods. And you're going to see a pattern because that's what all of the names do. So Hananiah, who becomes Shadrach, his name originally means the Lord shows grace. And his name becomes Shadrach, which means under the command of Aku. And he was the Babylonian god of the moon. Okay, but under the command of kind of gives us this idea of warring. And his name went from grace to war. And his name now honors this god of Babylon. So Mishael, who becomes Meshach, his name originally means who is like God, who is like Yahweh. And his name becomes who is like Aku, which from Shadrach, we remember that means he's the god of the moon. So his name went from honoring God to honoring one of the Babylonian gods of the moon. And then finally, Azariah means the Lord helps. I think that's a beautiful name and a beautiful idea because we face trials all the time. We talked about that last week. And I'll put that video in the cards if you want to flashback to it. But we always run into things and we're gonna need the Lord's help. So that name Azariah is just beautiful. But his name is changed to Abednego, which means servant of Nabu, or Nibu, or Nego. I think they all mean the same thing, which was the Babylonian god of learning and writing. So their names are changed to help them identify more with the culture. And I think that's something that we fight so hard against. And if you want to read the story of Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael, you can find that in Daniel 1. And it is one of my favorite stories because they are facing the fiery furnace for identifying as children of God and not as Babylonian citizens. And I think that's where we struggle so much today, is because we try so hard to identify as citizens of the world. We're citizens of America. We're citizens of whatever state we live in. We're citizens of whatever county or town that we're from. And we take such pride in those things. And I think sometimes we forget to identify as children of God. And that's what's really going to help us to work through the hard stuff. And I just want to be real honest with you. I am working through some hard stuff. So being a mom is not easy. Being a stay-at-home mom is not easy. Being a working mom is not easy. I don't really know much about that. I've never been a working mom. But I know about being a stay-at-home mom, and it's hard, and being a wife is hard, and working on a home is hard, and cleaning is hard, and all of it is hard. And the truth of that is because those are all things of this world. The house and the job and the car and the yard and all of these things that we think we need to work on are all things of this world. And when we look at the things of God, those things are simple. They're hard to do, but they are simple. And they're love God and love people. That's what God wants us to do. Love God and love people. And I think when we boil down our identity to being children of God, then we really can love God and love people. And the other stuff will just work itself out or not. And that will be okay too. So we're going to be starting this series. Today is the very first one. Today, I'm trying to explain to you how much identity matters, because our identity, who we see ourselves as, is going to dictate what we do. It's going to dictate how we interact with people. It's going to dictate the motives, the motivation behind what we do, and how we speak to people, how we love people. And that's what really matters to God. In James, it talks about religion. Real religion, faith in God, is taking care of those who need help. He talks about caring for orphans and widows. And I think that sometimes we get this idea that when we identify as Christians, that we have to sing the right songs and we have to say the right things. And we end up talking in Christianese. And the people who we are really trying to reach don't get those things. And those things don't matter to them. What matters to them is that people love them genuinely. And the only way that we can do that is when we know who we truly are, when we identify as children of God and everything that that encompasses. Over the series, we're going to be talking about being princesses and princes. So dudes, if you're checking it out too, you are a prince. But we're going to talk about being princesses. We're going to talk about being light in this world and salt in this world, how we are valuable, how we are powerful, how we are free. And I cannot wait to share all of those things that God has been teaching me about who I am, so that you can hopefully learn more about who He says you are. So I pray today that you have heard how much your identity matters and how much it matters that we get our identities right, that we are children of God. And I love you so much. I hope that you have been blessed to be a blessing, and I will see you again soon.